Yo, Yiheng got WR again,
Real shocker there.
and I thought I had some insights on it. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the recons and then giving my thoughts on some of this stuff, maybe where he could improve on some things, where I was confused on some of it. Yeah, just a little bit about me. I'm Dylan Miller. I've been a professional cuber for like, I don't know, a few years now. I do coaching, and yeah, this is going to be a bit of a breakdown on just like what I think Yiheng's thought process was, and hopefully it'll make this digestible for all skill levels. So let's get straight into the recons. So Scramble's going to be on screen here. We're going through these. So solve 1, Yiheng kind of messed up pretty bad here. He ended up doing a yellow cross, and it went something like R prime D to solve green, and then R2F and then U prime D L F prime, and then he did a U L prime to set these up as a 3-mover. So yeah, it's kind of like a convoluted way to set up a 3-mover here, and especially for this to be in front right, it's not ideal. Although he does end up with 2 oriented edges here, and his 1 misoriented edge is going to stay here, so it's going to be really easy to track. Presumably this stays here the whole time. So R, U, R prime, and then here's going to do U. Solves diag pairs. I have said before previously that diag pairs aren't the greatest. In this case, it's actually not bad, because like I said, we have oriented edges. So this edge is oriented, this edge is oriented. That just means that we can solve it without rotating or doing FB moves. So it doesn't actually make that much of a difference whether or not you do like the diag pairs here in this instance, because you know you'll still be avoiding like super bad rotations later on. So yeah, he did L U L prime U L U L prime, which I would have done this pair first, but is what it is. And then he did rotate, yeah, and then he solved these, which this is actually kind of bad. I don't know why he did this. You would just keep doing your oriented edges, because by doing it this way, you're doing rotation back. So you did 2 rotations for 1 pair, whereas from here, you could have actually really cleanly done this. So instead of doing a rotation, doing this pair, you could have just kept going from here, solved this one, and then gone straight into this one, because why would you rotate for a misoriented edge when you could just solve your oriented edge from here? So you could have done something like this, and then you could have actually forced EO here, just doing L prime U L, U prime, F U prime, F prime, and then you actually get a nice T to GLL. So you get EO, you avoid an extra rotation, and you get 2 GLL. Not that Yiheng really knows those, but this could have been a little bit cleaner, and it's kind of no wonder why this is the worst solve of the average. Yeah. So what I would have done here is actually something a little bit different. I'd have changed up my pair order. So if you actually end up doing this pair first, now you can essentially keep all RUL for your last 2 pairs. So if you do this first, now when you do this pair, it actually takes out this edge like this, and now you rotate 1 time, same as the other solution. And now you still end up with EO. So in either way, at least the situation, like the continuations I thought of, avoided a rotation and actually give you all edges oriented. Hindsight's 2020, obviously, but I think Yiheng definitely made some wrong decisions here on his pair choice. As for what I think I would have done here, I'd have done something like an X cross with this corner and this edge. So B prime R F L prime R, and then D prime U2 R U prime R prime U R D2. I don't know. I think that just works out a little bit better. It's a nice cross. That's what I saw. And then, yeah, here, misoriented edge, oriented edge, so rotate, solve. Do this with the fat F insert, because now we have an oriented edge. So, again, in that solution, still only 1 rotation. Don't know why Yiheng did 2. His decision-making on second pair is where I think things really went wrong. Either that and decision-making on, like, either he chooses to do the BR slot for second pair, and then he has the better continuation for last 2, or he just doesn't rotate for the 3rd pair that he did, because why would you rotate? It's a misoriented edge, so you already have an oriented edge, just solve that. So, yeah. Okay, solve 3 is really, really nice. This scramble is really good. So, pretty simply, we're just going to set orange-green up to a 3-mover, and then when we do that, we actually get a free pair here. I did this scramble my first time, and I got the exact same solution Yiheng did. So, I think most top-level solvers would do something very similar here. So, I'll show you kind of how it goes. So, yeah, he did it actually from here, which is smart. This just makes it look at it a little bit, or like, it makes the solution a little bit cleaner ergonomically. If I did it from here and I did B2 LR, it's just kind of weird. So, it's better to do U2 wide RR. D2, and then of course you do the 3-mover. You don't want to do this first because then it doesn't make this a 3-mover, so you do this. And then the only real pivot point here where some top level solvers might do something different is either you do U2 R from UR, or you do U R from U2R. Generally, as a rule of thumb, you want to do U R from U2R. You stay in home grip a little bit cleaner, and it avoids like any weird rear grips like this, like that. So it's just more consistent to do it this way. And then his decision making here is like, it may look like he's actually setting up a 3-mover here. In some cases, it does look like that, but this is actually a pretty nice case that you can get sometimes. So we want to try to solve orange-blue in a way that takes this pair out. If I rotated and then did this, it actually leaves me with like a really bad continuation from there. So what he's doing is he's using the fact that this is a misoriented edge and this is also a misoriented edge. You'll see that we'll actually end up solving both these pairs with one rotation. But he's using the fact that we need to use an empty slot to solve these to actually make these a better solution. So when I do R, U2, R prime, U prime, I don't want to do F moves here. Because if I do F moves, then I have to do F moves for my continuation. So this is misoriented, this is misoriented, so we rotate. And now we have a really clean last two where you insert this and this becomes a 3 mover. So pretty simply like that. So if you notice, like his first 2 pairs were 3 mover plus free pair, and then his last 2 pairs were like solve a pair or like match a pair up, so solve the 2 pieces, and then free pair 3 mover. So no wonder this solves a 397. He has very good situations. Of course, he has to be able to like recognize them and take advantage of it. But yeah, and then last layer is just really clean here. WOLL into T perm. I don't have much to say there. I think like the only thing that you can really get from this is make sure you're solving pairs in BL. Like I don't know this exact same solution, but there's a few ways you can execute it. Just try to make sure that you're solving across in a way where you don't have to rotate for first pair. BL is the best slot to solve into. And then, yeah, make sure you know pair order. Like, obviously, you don't want to solve the free pair first because then it makes the first pair, like, it makes the 3 mover worse. So do the 3 mover and then the free pair. And then as for, like, third and fourth pair, take advantage of an empty slot if you can help it. I think that's a really good example there. Not always is it going to give you a 3 mover, but it does make the situation a little bit easier for you sometimes. And, yeah, just make sure that make decisions based off majority edge count. In this case, we had misoriented edge and misoriented edge for the last 2 pairs. So, of course, we rotate. Same RU-gen. That's how we get really high TPS. Optimize RU-gen turning. And then, of course, just be able to turn at 12.5 TPS. And, yeah, do WOLL T-perm. It's a really straightforward solve, but, yeah. Obviously, you have to be able to recognize and execute that to get sub 4 anyways. On to solve 3. Okay, this one, I will say, I have no idea how this kid saw this. So what we're actually doing is we're making an X cross with a red blue here. My thought process here would be, okay, like maybe I can solve a cross with this here. So like F2, D prime, F prime, R prime, D. And then I just have this into my back slot, and I end up with like misoriented edges, whatever. This continuation is quite poor, not the ideal, but you know, that would just be my thought process there. And if you notice, that only changes this one pair, this pair, one move affects it out of my cross. What Yiheng decides to do is he decides to use a cross that has 4 moves that affect the first pair, at least the corner of the first pair, which is like a lot, and especially the fact that it's moving in this D layer, it makes it really hard to trace. But what he recognizes is that if you do L2, you actually get this block made, and then the position of this edge relative to this edge made it such that if you did D prime to align these all relative to each other, now you're set up perfectly to do L prime, F prime, which solves these 2 edges in relation to each other and into the cross, and preserves this block, which is really, really high level knowledge. I don't think I would ever really see this. I had to look back at this a few times to actually like make sure I saw it right. But yeah, it's a really interesting idea here. And then from here, something that we should think about when we're doing X crosses is which side do I actually want to insert this edge from? My general instinct would be to, in this case, solve it from the back side here. Just because I get this as a slightly cleaner continuation. And then I can do something like this and make decisions based on majority edge count. So this is good. And rotate, solve. But that's not what Yiheng did here. What he did here is he actually inserted this from the front, presumably to keep this as his next pair. I don't really recommend this because I would tend to avoid having my first 2 solved on right. In this case, it actually works out for him. There is some ideas here where it ends up being better. What I think actually happens is he gets really lucky with this last 2, like these second and third pair continuation. So of course you have to be able to recognize it, obviously, but either way you do it, you still get a good continuation. So you can either do L prime UL, RU R prime, and then 3 mover, or what I would do is you solve these first with L prime U prime L, and now when you solve these, this is a free pair. That's just a multi-slot that you want to know. And then I really like what he did for this last pair here. So he did sledge insert. I think I would do the same thing. I think this feels weird, so you get line, whereas this forces L, and L is typically better than line on average. And he actually cancels really cleanly into the OLL here. From here, you can see that this is just going to be this OLL pretty simply. Hopefully you can kind of see what's going on here. But yeah, it's really easy to look at into last slot, or into OLL from last slot. And then he went straight into this. And this is, I think, like the biggest mistake Yiheng made in this average. You'll notice that this solve is a 448, 11.8 TPS, but the PLL is only 11.5 TPS-ish, which for Yiheng is quite poor. And I think the reason here is that because he did a U2 into R2F J or G perm and then U prime AUF. The angle you're at here, you're already in position to just do one alg, no pre AUF, no post AUF. I think this is like unequivocally the biggest mistake Yiheng made in this average. Just do G prime from this angle. There's no reason to not do it. Yeah, it just saves you 3 moves. So yeah, just do G prime from the back here. And this is why it's really important to know alternates for your PLLs. You don't want to just do a singular alg because you'll run into situations where you can get like a U2 pre-AUF and then a U2 post-AUF. And if you know algs that solve different AUFs, then you never run into that anymore. But in that case, it's actually quite poor. So yeah, I would recommend Yiheng learn alternate G-perm, especially because these are from U2 AUFs. And then, yeah, I think the only thing here is, like, I would have done this from the back just because my instinct would be to do these. But I think it's perfectly fine to rationalize it by doing it this way. But again, you notice as we had on solve 2, we had a really clean multi-slot. And now here we're getting a really clean multi-slot. Of course, you feel to take advantage of these situations. But, you know, we have to be given these situations to even take advantage of in the first place. So, I will give Yiheng his credit. These are very, very clean solves, but, you know, this is not something that he's actively setting up. He's just getting really clean situations on these last 2. So, yeah. And then, of course, learn alternate G-perm. Okay, so solve 4, 459. I would actually do a very similar situation or solution as to what Yiheng does here. So we notice that we have this free pair, and the way this is free pair relative to this red edge, it makes it really hard for us to preserve it in a way where, like, we solve cross while doing it. So what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to solve, like, cross -1, so that way we have time to insert this. So D2 solves blue, R, B prime, R solves orange and green. And then here we're going to do U prime, LU2L prime. Again, LU2L prime is good because it's actually from home grip, so we avoid any regrips. And then here we do U prime, D prime, which Yiheng, I'm assuming, saw this in inspection because seeing this in real time is really tricky. He did U prime, D prime to open this slot because he saw that this edge got solved. He inserts this edge with R, U prime, R prime, D, and then he just inserts this really cleanly with U, R, U prime, R prime. He inserts it on the left side. Our options here, anytime we have an edge like in the middle, is do we insert this on the left or right? And the way we figure that out is like EOs. Yiheng actually inserts this on the left, and I think this is a mistake. I would actually insert this from the right. Because I think we get, even though we go from 2 good edges, here now we actually get 2 bad edges. But if you notice, like, making decisions off the majority edge count, 1 rotation makes these good, and now this is actually a much cleaner continuation than what we had prior. So we can just solve these into the back slot, and then we can cancel really cleanly these into the front slot. And this is something that we've seen, like, Aaron Hyun get officially. You can just do, like, sledge or U2R prime. I don't know if Yiheng knows that. And then again here, we want to do U prime and then go straight into this rather than something else, like he did prior. Like, we can't really deal with this free pair in any other way besides this pseudo cross, so I agree with his idea here. We see this get solved in the back, so D, U prime, R, U, R prime, D, and then here he does U, R, U prime, R prime, and then pretty simply he just does like R, U2, R prime, U2, L prime, U prime, L, and then here he does U, and then triple inverse, and then U prime, OLL, and then U prime, there we go, and then A perm. So I would have done A perm a little bit differently, but you know, he's gotten really good OLLs on like all of these solves so far. The WOLL not as much, but yeah, pretty good OLLs on like almost everything here. I think this solve is probably like the cleanest we've seen in terms of like idea. This is probably like the most advanced ideas that he's had in a solve. Everything else has been like pretty straightforward and simple, but this one we did a pseudo cross, and it's something that I've been playing around with a lot as well. So free flop isn't bad, but I would not recommend it if you're like over sub 7, because I don't think you really know how to use it well. But yeah, pseudo stuff or like free flop can be effective, but it's very situational, and I think Yiheng, you did a really good job of using it in this solve. On to solve 5 and like the best solve of this average, like most clutch. Okay, so he's doing white here, but he's doing it from this angle. I don't know if I would do the same thing, but he does a L2 U to build this block, R prime D B prime So that solves these three, and this one's about to be solved. And then, again, the same thing I was telling you earlier, which way do we insert this edge from? If I did L2, F prime, L2, we actually get a really good continuation here, like U2, 3 mover, U prime, lefty sledge. Same level he had before, high TPS into this, and then like G perm, which I think would have been a fine solution as well. But Yiheng actually opts to avoid all of that, and he just wants to do a L U2. And I think this is kind of a mistake, because like I said, if you do L F prime, L prime, you get this same type of continuation and a good multi-slot as before. But when you do R prime F R U prime, you get a worse follow-up here, just like unequivocally. So he does R prime U R, and then here he does rotate R U2 R2 U prime R, and then, which I don't even know if I agree with. I think I would rather do the thing we did prior, where you do R U2 R prime U prime R, and then now you have your continuation in the front right, whereas he ends up with his in the front left. And again, you get this type of continuation as well, which is still perfectly fine. I think could have gotten the same time, if not better. So here we have bad edge, bad edge. What he does is he decides to rotate for bad edge, which he should know that this will stay bad. I think he does it like this because he wants to solve this as a 3 mover. But I would rather have like, I would rather just take this out now. I guess doing like this is fine, but it does add an extra rotation to the solution, which I think is just complicating things more than it needs to be. I think reducing rotations is really important. And then here he rotates to solve this in front left. Generally, I've recommended people to solve things in the back, just to prioritize righty moves, but his lefty turning is just as good, so I don't think it's that big of a deal here. Then he does up prime U prime L, and he actually gets really lucky with the way he just solves this, because you could have done like F moves here to avoid the rotation. But then you have to do U, and then this, and then you don't get as clean of like a solution going forward for the rest. But I think, like, given the pressure, this solution makes a lot of sense just because it flows really well. And then we have this lefty, which is what I do, so I agree with that. And then here we have just J perm from the right angle. So the last layer, everything was from the right angle, and then he only had, like, one AUF in there. So I think he did get pretty lucky with, like, the last layer as well. This is a pretty underrated last layer to, like, actually execute, especially because Yiheng's very good with his lefty moves. So, moral of the story here, I don't want to, like, make it seem like I'm better than Yiheng or anything, but I just want to point out that there is still stuff that even the world record holder can learn from. He's not flawless like some people say. There's definitely some decision-making things here that don't always make sense, and he still has stuff that he can clean up in his solves, which is even scarier, I think. So, yeah, obviously great average to Yiheng. Awesome job. Glad to see it. And I hope some of this analysis kind of helped you out here and made things a little bit easier. Main takeaways, you don't need to do too much extra stuff. You know, use special things when they are required given the scramble. But a lot of times you can make use out of just very simple solutions, setting up 3 movers as much as possible and solving in good slots, rotating correctly, making the right pair choices, etc., etc. What I think Yiheng can get a little bit better on is avoiding rotations in certain spots. And there was like a few inefficiencies, like even on that last solve, like I said, he was very focused on setting up the 3 mover that he missed the other 3 mover that was just a little bit more natural, right? So yeah, hopefully this kind of was useful for you to get some insight on how Yiheng did its solves, and maybe for some top level solvers, there's some ideas here that are useful for you. So yeah, let me know how you enjoyed the video in the comments. Congrats to Yiheng again. Taking over Cuban, bro. It's actually insane. And yeah, I'll see y'all later. Peace.